In an excerpt from the show catalog, Keeler states the following regarding this exhibit. The title of this exhibition, Heliodelic Topography, may require some explanation, as I'm sure it is not a term that most are familiar with or use at all. I certainly had not heard the term until I read something similar in a review of an artist's work where she referred to her paintings as having a certain heliotropic quality. She was also pointing out the viewer's tendency to go toward or look at the lightest area in a given painting. Heliodelic is similar to the term psychedelic and brings to mind the heightened awareness or delight in the visual. So, heliodelic is construed by me as taking delectation in the visual representation of the play of sunlight as it describes forms. Of course, there are other sources of light in my paintings, such as nocturnes with moonlight or man-made electric light. But still, the leitmotif, as it were, in my work is a depiction of light, and often the dramatic light of late afternoon or early morning, known in the movie world as the golden hour.
My name is Peter Klosky. I'm the Director of Exhibitions here at Roberson Museum, and my experience with Brian's work goes back quite some time. I think back to the late 80s. He was here with a group show. I think it was called Seven Visions. It was organized by the Art Museum. And then several times in the past 30 years or so, he's been featured in Roberson's annual or semi-annual regional art exhibition. And he's taken the first prize too many years, I think, too many to recall. But anyway, I've looked forward to seeing all of his work in this gallery particularly for many, many years. And we certainly have filled up the space with some really, really beautiful paintings. We have pretty close to 100 paintings in the entire show. And how does one hang these? Well, what we try to do is to find discrete bodies of work that we can sort of organize in different sections. So a lot of the paintings are in triads and dyads, groupings of 2, 3, 4 maybe, and they may be thematic. They may be organized by color. They may be organized by subject or even location. Since Brian's, his work seems to be a real coverage of northern Pennsylvania, the Finger Lakes, the coast of Maine, and Italy. It's pretty easy to kind of break those down in terms of geographic place. The other thing is by arranging things according to the whole heliotropic notion of the centrality and the attraction of the brightest light in the pictures. These 4 pieces here, we tried to locate those major points of light centrally. Okay, so it sort of all emanates from the center of the grouping of the pieces in this whole montage. So it's almost like these canvases are perforated and there's a light from behind the center that's shining out. And that's so true in so much of Brian's work. And it's not just the elements that are in each discrete grouping. It's kind of what moves off to one side. The use of the red outlines and underpainting here really does reflect what's going on in this Italian piece here with an awful lot of reds that are used. This grouping here, I mean, it's all Italian stuff, as is the next day there. And the colors, we try to sort of segue from one piece to the next in terms of color. In this area here, these pieces with the field work on either side, there's a very strong yellow, and the sky colors kind of combine with the 3 seascapes in the middle. These kind of really flat, even though it's not the same location. We have a similar use of yellow in this Racket Lake painting from the Adirondacks. And facing across from that, we have another Italian scene. I think it's Rome, isn't it? Yeah. But the light from that, you see it from here, but if you guys move around here, you'll also see that there's a purple here that's reflected in the nocturne down there. It's kind of a transitional line of sight that is not necessarily explicit. It's sort of it's kind of hidden, but we try to relate things color-wise with different viewing angles different vistas that happen. So it's not just the paintings that are in one discrete location. On this far wall here, we have 3 paintings that are figural. They have human bodies in them, and they move in a transitionally darkened kind of way to 3 paintings which are nocturnes, the last of which is an allegory which goes with the other 2 allegories that are there. So there's a shifting, there's a segue between each sectional dyad or triad of paintings. And if you actually I'm going to pull you around over here, you'll also notice we have another Italian nocturne here. And in the background here, we have those nocturnes that are on the southern wall of the gallery. So there are a lot of angles of things that reflect kind of color shifts. From this area over here, we see these 2 fine pieces that are, I believe, the coast of Maine, and we have a Pennsylvania landscape over here. And the colors shift in together, the sunsets that are featured in this painting here. But there's also a reflection on this wall here. That's from one viewing point. Now these things are not, and nobody's going to notice this but me probably, in any kind of direct, intentional sense. But in some of it's happy accident. But a lot of it actually is kind of planned to try and get connections that are happening color-wise and segues between colors. And you'll see that happening if you just take a pan through the gallery here. This main painting here has blues and sky that shifts into the Seneca Lake one there. And then it shifts to a slightly different coloration there, the one that's in Monrovia, and the 2 Pennsylvania ones in the background there. But it's just trying to use some of the tonalities and the colors to shift and make a progression through the whole show. And this wall has a couple of major groupings. Obviously, those 2 down there, the main ones with their incredible sunsets. The one with the cows in it was a little bit of a problem because it didn't really relate a lot to everything else. But the yellows and the greens that are in there shift and kind of work in that plane, but also segue into the main paintings. These 3 here have strong blues, and also the yellow lines that are reflected here, and some of the shapes that are formed by the shadows. So we kind of try to relate those 3 there. These 3, the sunsets are treated very, very similarly. Here we have an Owego and Finger Lakes and another Owego. These are basically both the same scenes, but the 3 just seem to go together. Shifting from the allegorical paintings here that are figurative as well, we have 3 landscapes here that are from the state of Maine, coast of Maine. And these have figures in them too, even though one may be a fairly small one. And again, the New England sky, and well, it's actually I guess we'd call it the island sky. These may not be island pictures. I'm not that familiar with that particular part of Maine, but I am very familiar with Monhegan Island. My late wife and I summered there. Vacationed there, I should say, sometimes in the fall, for many, many years. And so this scene is very familiar to me. It's, Manana Island there with the Coast Guard station, and the ferry would come in from Port Clyde over here. But it's exactly what the feeling that one gets when one is on one of these sun-drenched islands off the coast of Maine. And just the feeling of well-being. The people look like Mainers. And the dogs, of course, the dogs. But I think that's probably my favorite painting is the Monhegan one.